Yes, yes, you are. You are tuned in to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is great to be back. Before we get into the whole spiel, I just want to send a special shout out. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris Hinkle at BF Conservative on X for filling in yesterday. Did a fantastic job. And it was really meant a lot to me. I was able to go in and had a great set of doctors helping me out. And I have to tell you, I have not been in this much of a relief for my back in probably 6-7 months. It turned out well. So I just wanted to make sure that I honored Chris, really helping me out. He's got a great podcast. You should go check him out at BF Conservative. They're on X. Look, we're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on X. We're streaming on YouTube, and we're streaming at WYAB.com. We appreciate everybody who's tuning in over the airways, but if you can't get the signal, hey, you can always catch us online, and we appreciate that. If you want to be part of the program today, the number is going to be 601 879 0002. And the text line is open 601 879 5060. We always like getting texts. Today is Friday. Thank God it's Friday, right? It is the 26th of September, 2025. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We're here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You are. Gentle answers turn away wrath, but a harsh word incites anger. And what I've really noticed really in this past week is just the amping up of aggression on everybody. It just seems like we're all a little bit on edge. It seems like we're a little bit tense. And we're going to cover the stories today that need to be covered. You know, we call the balls and strikes here. We don't pull any punches. We call it like we see it. And there is some good news out there, but it just doesn't seem like people are focusing on that. They just want to hear the next doom and gloom. And there is so much out there. So I want to start off with something positive. And that is the collapse of the mainstream media. I will never not cover this because I do feel that this is the chief reason that we have all the anxiety in our society that we do. If there's a way to make something more ugly than it already is, they're going to find a way to do it. Week of September 15th, cable news ratings. News networks see across the board declines. This is coming from adweek.com. Love that website. I visit it every day. It doesn't get updates every day, but I'm always checking it out. And they seem to have the inside scoop. They do lean a little bit to the left, but that's okay because they put the numbers there. And as long as we have the data, as long as we can see the numbers, we can make our own determination. We can make our own valuation to see what's really going on. All three cable news networks experienced week-to-week declines in total viewers from the 25 to 54 demographic during prime time and total day. That is a scary figure, not just to MSNBC/MS Now/BS Always, not just to CNN, but even Fox. Because despite the weekly drop, Fox News Network was the network of choice for the Charlie Kirk Memorial this past Sunday. The network drew an average of 5.2 million viewers with 755,000 in the demo. Do you know why all these networks actually lost viewership? I genuinely believe that this is the first time in our nation's history where we all went to online video instead of cable. The majority of people who followed Charlie were younger. That's not to say that us old fogies, we didn't like Charlie. We did. We followed him. We did everything we could to. But that's what we grew up on, right? I can remember when there was the assassination attempt on President Reagan. And I can remember rushing home to turn on CNN because that's just what we did. What are kids doing now when something goes down? They go to YouTube. They go to Insta. They go to TikTok. They go to X. And I can't remember who said this, but as I was recovering yesterday afternoon, someone said one of the best things that Turning Point USA did was they didn't put any type of claim or copyright on the memorial service, and anybody was free to stream it who wanted to. They estimated at any one time 100 million people were watching, with at least another 100 million people following on. That is a lot of people. Those are ridiculous numbers, and those are just the online streams that they can track. That doesn't count all the retweets and the people who are using their VPNs to hide their ISP numbers. They're not the people who are, maybe following along on that one stream. It's absolutely staggering, and I know that many people in the mainstream media are worried about this. Because when you're sitting there running a studio, whether it's Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS, whoever, that costs money. But when you are a smaller organization where your overhead is not as big and you can put out really good content, somebody like Chris Hinkle, somebody like Andrew Gosser from WYAB, our overhead is not that high. People are starting to turn away from those big corporate conglomerates and starting to go towards more localized people they can trust. We have to. That's the great thing about capitalism, is that we are consumer based. Now, I'm not saying consumer based is always right for everything, but it generally keeps us pushing down the right direction. And what's going to end up happening is newsrooms and news organizations are going to have to start tightening their belts. They're going to have to figure out how to connect to their viewers. Does that mean that people become more partisan? I don't think so. I just think that people trust their own eyes, and they want to see what's really happening. They don't want to be told what to think. Like, I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just telling you the numbers here. And if I go to the numbers, here we go. Fox News total viewers 2.673 million. MSNBC slash MS Now slash BS Always 854,000. CNN 570,000 people. Tiny. People just aren't tuning in. And what's this mean? The big time advertisers are not getting their money's worth. Now, this is a good thing because most of what keeps cable news on air is pharmaceutical ads for new drugs that they're getting ready to come out with. You got to have it. And they're not being able to get in front of all those eyeballs anymore. It will be interesting to see what Alphabet slash YouTube slash Google will do about that. As you know, Google came out, well, actually not Google, it was Alphabet, which is the parent company, basically saying that they were forced by the Biden administration and the FBI to censor predominant conservatives a couple of years ago. So they said they're going to unban everybody. So, of course, there's Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones, all these people start going back on YouTube thinking that they can get back on, and they're immediately banned again. And Google's like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's a pilot program. We haven't implemented it yet. We'll let you know when you're back. It's funny how free speech is so important to the left when it's their guy, but when it's a conservative, it's hate speech. It's this, it's that. They try to always sit there and give excuses. All we want is consistency. Even conservatives, I think that's why so many people are so fired up over the Epstein files. We want consistency. Hold on. Yep. This is right here.
I think the DOJ should immediately move to unseal all the Epstein documents in the Southern District of New York.
Yeah. Everything. Everything except child sexual assault material.
I think every file should be released to the public the same way as the JFK files. Let the American people decide.
Put them out there, because if there's nothing in there, then we can see there's nothing in there. Now.
Yep. That's good old Charlie Kirk. And I think I'm going to play that pretty regularly. Not because I'm trying to be a hair in a biscuit, as my pastor would say, but just because we need to be reminded. And some people do not think that. Now, there's been a new off-year election in Arizona, and a new Democrat has just been sworn into office, and they're going to hold a vote next week to release the Epstein files. If you want to believe what Ghislaine Maxwell said, she thinks that there might be people who are in the cabinet right now who might be on that list. That would be horrible. But if you did the crime, you got to do the time, you know? I think it's going to be one of those things that if it does get out, there's going to be so much shock and so much anger. But I think we'll start to heal after that. But the longer this plays out, the worse it's going to be, the worse it's going to get. And also saying with that, right now, Charlie Kirk has had over 800 million search impressions. The man is bigger now than just 2 weeks ago. There was a great story, and I'm looking for it, where they were talking about how Erica Kirk's forgiveness comment actually started having other people start to forgive as well. Tim Allen, I've got the story here somewhere. Well, it doesn't matter. I remember it. Tim Allen actually forgave his father's killer after 20 years. That's powerful. When you have people who see somebody else doing it, who's gone through so much worse, and they come in and they start this feeling and movement of forgiveness. It's important that people understand that just because you forgive somebody doesn't mean that they are free of consequence. And we had a really good discussion on the phone with my son, because he was like, "Dad, how could you forgive that? I want him to go to jail." And I'm like, "Well, he can go to jail, but you can still have a clear heart." I'm telling you, people want us to stay angry. They want us to stay focused on all this other stuff. And we'll get into the other stuff too. You know, everybody walking out of Benjamin Netanyahu when he was giving his speech at the UN. I think there's a lot more to it than people are leading on. We're going to talk about that in depth. I'm going to talk about a paper I wrote a long time ago where, long story short, is war is hell. And the better you are at fighting war, the more rules and constraints you're going to put on yourself. But as you start losing it, as you start falling down the pyramid, you're going to become more desperate. You're going to use different tactics. You're going to innovate. You're going to try to do new things. The Dallas shooter, everybody fired up over that. You know, that guy was just absolutely created by social media and the mainstream media. He went out, and it didn't happen overnight. Social media started way back in the day. MySpace, AOL, You've Got Mail, way back in the late 90s. And in 2025, it's gotten to the point now to where there are potentially hundreds of thousands of American citizens who are radicalized as they perceive themselves losing power. They're going to get crazier and crazier. But we'll get into that as the program unfolds. We're off and running on the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We are rocking and rolling. Text line is blowing up, but I want to give a shout out to my man, Steven Arrington over at Elite Custom Construction. You know, they're a great sponsor of the show. I'm really grateful and thankful for them. And they just do top-notch cabinetry work in your kitchens, whether that kitchen be inside or whether it be outside. They can go ahead and design a new kitchen for you. They use the top-of-the-line products, materials, custom mill working, and with everything that's going on right now, especially with how they're going to start taxing and tariffing all of these new cabinets that are coming in from overseas that are built outside the United States and then brought in. Hey, great time to check them out. They're located over there in Pearl, and you can give them a call at 601-927-0552. They are online at elitecustomconstruction.net. Brother Stephen, we are grateful for you and hope things are going well. We'll see you Sunday at church, my man. I did actually find the Tim Allen article, and I want to read it because there were two really important lines that were coming in there, and it was reported specifically more on the right than on the left. But even those who reported this on the right were considered low factuality, which makes me kind of wonder again, who decides what's low factuality and what's not? Because it's completely factual that Tim Allen forgives driver who killed his dad in 1964. Man, I thought it was a lot later after that, but 1964, after hearing Eric Kirk's eulogy. And thing about it is that forgiveness is something that you truly have to work on. You truly have to go after. Allen expressed that he was deeply affected by Erica Kirk's forgiveness that of her husband's alleged killer, Tyler Robinson, during a memorial service for Charlie Kirk. And then it gives you a bunch of different websites that you can go to. But every chance that I get to point out some type of good that's come from Charlie's murder and assassination, I'm going to do that. I guess the next place to start is the United Nations. You know, they cut off the escalator on Trump. They killed the teleprompter. Now Benjamin Netanyahu shows up, and they have a bunch of people walk out, which I'm fine with. I think that going ahead and stating your belief and protesting and doing all that stuff, it's important. What is kind of disheartening is that some people say it was just a few people. Some people said it was most of the people. And I'm not going to play any of Mr. Netanyahu's speech. Don't need to. But Israel is really upset that they're trying to recognize a Palestinian state. And they're just fit to be tied. But what people do not understand is, and this even fits in with Pete Hegseth calling back all the admirals and generals for some meeting next week. I've never heard of all the flag officers being assembled like that. It's truly from 1 star up. It's not to say that our colonels can't handle it, because they can, because they're colonels, and you just don't get there by accident. But this all gets back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and warfighting is the same way. When you're at the top, like the United States, and we're self-actualizing, we can put all of these limits on us. We want to make sure that we have all the rules of war, the rules of engagement, laws of armed conflict. We can go ahead and follow that. And there are countries that are not quite where we're at, but right below us, and they have high self-esteem, good morale, and they're operating too at a very high level of excellence. Then the next level is love and belonging. This is just like regular nationalism. And then you start going down to things like safety, and then just survival. And that's where you see the Ukraine operating at survival and safety. And that's where you see Israel operating at survival and safety. Arguably, you could say Syria and those nations over there are going ahead and wanting safety, security, and just the ability to survive. And when we wrote a paper on this back in like 2008, I think I wrote it because after reading Sun Tzu's Laws of Armed Conflict, after reading a few good men, a few good captains from the Gulf War, I realized that we fight war much like the hierarchy of needs. And the more desperate you get, the more craziness you're going to have. Netanyahu said that he's going to definitely finish clearing out Gaza. He says that they're not starving the Gazan people out. Never mind what's being reported in the newspaper or in the propaganda. It's not even debatable, ladies and gentlemen. It's not even debatable. People have used the starvation tactic time and time again. And when I get like 3 and 4 messages from people asking me about this, I'm like, go read Sun Tzu. They'll talk about it. Cut off the supply chain. Whether it be oil, whether it be food, whether it be water, whether it be the ability to fight with weapons, it truly doesn't matter. It's the same principle. And how Americans, forget that, how the West cannot understand that is beyond me. We try to act like we're all high and mighty and that we're better than everybody else and that we know better. And we really don't. It does seem to me that Israel is continuing to isolate itself from the rest of the world. They're just angering more and more people. And I'm not even going to start talking the craziness that some stuff's out there. Candace Owens is pushing some stuff, and I'm just like, that's just a road that I'm not willing to go down to. And I know that there are many of you in this audience who are, and I do read the stuff, and I do appreciate the feedback. You know, everybody thinks that Israel's perfect. It is not. I would argue that the people of Israel are different than the borders of Israel. And I get flack from my Christian friends for that, but that's just the truth. That's just the truth. When we get back, we've got to talk about the U.S. economy. Because if you didn't know any better, you would think things are going straight into the gutter. The fear-mongering is real, but so is the data. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. I know it was covered extensively yesterday, but this Comey story is just the tip of the iceberg, in my opinion. There's a lot of things I want to say about this, but the thing I think is the biggest driver going to be driving in all of this is how are they going to use the president's social media comments, his comments on the record? Is the defense attorneys going to try to say that Comey can't get a fair and just trial? Are they, what there's an angle here that no one seems to be talking about or really concerned about. I think it's great that they indicted Comey. They should go after William Ray, Bill Ray, and the rest of those guys too. But it just seems to me that they're dragging their feet. They're stalling this. Look, they only did it with 5 days to go until the statute of limitations dropped. And then MSNBC/MS Now/BS Always is complaining that it's such a small indictment. It's only a page and a half. Maybe it's just that simple. We do know now that there were many people in the crowd from the FBI, some saying as many as 275 informant/agents/whatever you want to call them, just completely loaded in the January 6th protest/demonstration/it went south quick. And I genuinely believe that I don't even think Comey's going to jail. I think this is going to just be litigated out. I think there's other people that might go to jail, but I don't think that it's going to get the justice that we're all seeking for. I don't think we're going to get what we want. We've got Pelosi on air admitting that it's her fault. There's actually another video out there. It's 6.5 minutes long. I did watch it. I will post it on my X account at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser, where Nancy Pelosi's daughter is videographing for historical purposes only Nancy Pelosi's day, January 6, 2020, where she's calling different people, asking for help, saying she didn't expect this. And it just goes to show you how screwed up our Department of Justice really is. And again, we have to be truthful about this. There's a two-tier justice system. There's the justice system that we're all under. And then when you start getting these high-paying and high-playing politicians, the political class, as I like to call them, they're going to get a different level of justice. And people are also, the texts have been really incredible on this. And some people see it my way where we're going back and forth, but we have to be truthful. And my guy here, unknown texter, says, Andrew, it doesn't matter if we don't prosecute Comey, Ray, etc. As soon as the Democrats get back in power, they're going to do the same to us all over again. And the dude is right. If it's a dude, if it's a lady, I'm sorry, but dude, it is. You're absolutely right. That Pandora box has been opened. Lawfare is real. People are talking about how they don't even want to go for even want to run for political office anymore because they're worried about what they just might fall into, which is a shame. Those are the kind of people you want, who aren't going to sit there and start going ahead and ripping everything off. I've got this story from Jackson Jambalaya. I got a couple of them, but one of them is Shad arrests the mayor. From Jackson Jambalaya. Today, State Auditor Shad White announced that special agents from his office have arrested Brooksville Mayor Early Henley and former Brooksville City Clerk Shaquita Malone for allegedly embezzling funds. So Shad can arrest him, but will the AG prosecute? Will the local prosecutor prosecute? I'm telling you what, as someone who was elected to a smaller office, something like that, it is so easy to steal money. We broke down one where they were buying gift cards at the local hardware store and the local grocery store, and then they were handing them out to people. And there was no documentation of what it was gifted for, how much it was, or anything like that. We knew how much the gift cards were, but we didn't know what it was spent on. Literally, $500 gift card, Sam's, and then where did it go? It's so bad, and the further we get down the line with this technology, there are going to be more creative ways to sit there and steal local money. I'm glad Shad went after this dude and this lady, and they'll have their day in court, maybe. Shad White said, "We will continue to hold public officials who break the public's trust and accountability at every level. Thank you to the prosecutors who took our investigation and the men and women at the auditor's office for their tireless work." So apparently somebody is going to prosecute it, which is great news. And you can go ahead and visit Shad's website for that information. Sometimes it just takes one little hit and it'll start straightening everybody else up. I'd like to think that's what would be happening in Mississippi and elsewhere, but I don't necessarily agree with it. As we know, I got enough time for this. As we know, yesterday was the 25th. I was originally going to take the day off to go to the school choice hearing at the state capitol. However, I was unable to. I had to go to the doc, and I'm glad I did. I feel so much better. But Mississippi Today actually has a pretty good report on this. It's definitely slanted to the left, so you have to go into your mind knowing that. But at the same time, they gave a pretty good breakdown. The one thing that I didn't see that was reported here that I took away from the first meeting was that how many other states are actually having a successful school choice program. I know that people on this radio station, we all don't agree on school choice on every facet of it. I personally want the ability to be able to have the parents pick out where their child is going to go to school. But remember, children's development and where they get the majority of their thought patterns from is ages 1.5, 2 to 6 or 7. And after that, their belief system is pretty much locked in. Now, you can have changes, but that's why really strong Head Start programs, preschool, kindergarten, where your child's not a number, but an actual person. I also genuinely believe that the best person to educate kids ages 2 to 7, 2 to 6 are the parents. And there is no substitute for family being involved in the kid's upbringing. Not just mom and dad, but the aunties and uncles, grandmas and grandpas, pappies and meemaws. Need them all. And our society today, especially in America, where we have to be truthful, feminism is on the rise. Women don't think it's that big of a deal to be a mother anymore. Where pregnancy is looked as just inconvenience. What I wish somebody would do, and maybe this will happen, I would love to see some feminists do a nationwide study of women ages 35 to 45, never been married, never had kids, and see how happy they are. Because it's just not in humanity's DNA not to want to have kids, not to be a mom, not to want to be a parent or a grandparent. I'm 53. I'm a grandfather. Holy smokes. And Peanut is growing. I got sent this greatest video the other day. Her thing now is dinosaurs, and she's running around in this Tyrannosaurus Rex outfit, and it's just adorable. Can I put a monetary value on that? No, it's precious. But, we're having these girls' trips down to Mexico and to the Caribbean, and, they're all going, and we all know what's happening. Again, it goes back to hookup culture, but there has to be some way to point out the fact that being a mom and being a dad is the most important job we're ever gonna have, and we need to make sure that we have an economy that is conducive to that. Whether that be being able to get married, buy a house, afford the education that you want your kid to have. The Sweet Bee and I, we've got decisions coming up. Toots McCracken's getting ready to go to school or college, and I'm not sure I want her to go. Getting back to Mississippi today. Lawmakers selected to study school choice proposals in Mississippi made good Thursday for their promise to hear from both sides, which was awesome. What resulted was a dizzying day of conflicting arguments punctuated by a lunch break that divided the differences in opinion. And I am really grateful. As many of you know, I am pro-choice. I think we should have a choice where we send our kids to school, but I appreciate the other side's argument. But not because of what they think they made, because I think it proves that the capitalist system works. In the morning, a school superintendent from the Gulf Coast, an educational policy expert, it's important to say that, we just hear from the experts. I would argue that mom and dad are the expert of their child. They are gonna know what's best for their child. Against expanding such programs in Mississippi, citing education's worth as a public good. An appeal to your feelings. An appeal to your emotions. When I was getting rolled in and getting ready to get done on my back, I really didn't want somebody who was up in their feels working on my back. I wanted them locked in, ready to go, and get the job done. I wasn't worried about their nationality, what sex they were, or even how they voted. Did they do the job that they were supposed to do? Is this the best people working on my back? And I definitely felt like I had that. We're going to take our last break of the first hour. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. And we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show, 103.9 WYAB. If you're listening to the stream online, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like and a share. And if you wouldn't mind following me at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser on X, I'd appreciate that. I did get 2 texts during the break. One was talking about how more and more countries are now starting to join a flotilla off the coast of Israel to make sure that not USAID, but that aid can get through. And Israel is putting itself in a box. The longer this goes on, but that goes for any war, right? And then the other one was just a reminder from the local VA that I need to get my flu shot, but we're going to take a pass on that. Everybody, with what's going on with Budweiser, Jaguar, and Cracker Barrel, you would think that you would run away from DEI. Not Best Buy. Best Buy is doubling down on their DEI with an appointment of a new person to the Chief Inclusion and Belonging Officer. It's just my opinion, but I don't think that's going to be too good for Best Buy. It's almost like we're not learning from our mistakes, you know? We're sitting there making the same mistakes, whether it be beer or food or any other commodity. We're just going out there and creating these same mistakes. And it's, again, it ends up hurting our American economy, because not only are we losing jobs and people are going to other places to find stuff, but it's destroying our culture. And for the life of me, I can't figure out what would make somebody want to go down that road and do something so silly like that. What else do we need to have happen to say that, you know what, this might not be working, fellas? Ladies, we might not want men in your bathroom. But I guess if that guy's the belonging officer and that guy feels like he belongs in the women's locker room or restroom, hey, we're all good with it. We've done lost our minds. When we get back in the next hour, we're going to talk about Insta. We're going to talk about the 911 incident yesterday. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9. We'll see you in about 8 minutes. Take care, everybody. And welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. It is Friday, the 26th of September, 2025. And we are streaming on Rumble. And we are streaming on X. And we are streaming on YouTube. And we are streaming at WYAB.com. We appreciate everybody who's tuning in over the radio. But if for some reason you can't get the signal, you can always catch us online. And we appreciate that. You can follow me at Andrew Gosser on X, AndrewGasser. I would appreciate that. You know, the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. And I just want to let you all know, the more you practice on being gentle with your answers, the less wrath you're going to have to endure. I'm telling you that right now. It's amazing how you can reach across and get somebody to come to your point of view if you can actually rationally have a discussion about it instead of throwing Molotov cocktails, snowballs, and other objects at your opponent, politically speaking. There's a few places that I wouldn't mind starting. The 911 issue interests me because I feel I truly, it's not that I don't trust 911, but when you need 911, especially in a self-defense type of scenario, you're already going to be on the losing end of that if that's your first line of defense. And I can just remember just waking up from everything that happened earlier in the day yesterday, and my phone is actually what got me going off. It was that alert, and that alert is really kind of harrowing. It definitely gets your attention. It's like, you need to look at this right now. This must be important. And it said 911 was out, and I looked at it and said, oh, I'm not worried about that, and just rolled back over and crashed out. But how many people in Mississippi depend on 911? Like, that's what keeps them sane. And all of a sudden now something bad happens and 911 doesn't work. You know, Public Enemy and Flava Flav have a great song about 911. And it's not that I'm not belittling the police officers, sheriff's department, firefighters, or other first responders. God bless you all. I couldn't do that job. And I am grateful and thankful for each one of you who do so in an admirable and unethical way. But I couldn't do that. But what really gets me with this whole story is apparently it was a fiber line that was cut. I cannot find anywhere where if it was one fiber line, two fiber lines. Now, the governor did come out, and a couple other places did come out and say that it did not appear that there was any malicious intent, which is good. But what does that say about our 911 redundancy when one fiber line gets chopped and all of a sudden most of the state of Mississippi and a little bit of Louisiana, maybe half Louisiana, I'm not sure. I don't know my Louisiana parishes and geography that well. Please forgive me. But, you know, they lose their 911 service. Now, if you did have a landline, apparently that still worked. How many people here even have their houses rigged up for a landline anymore? My house, I think, was built in 1941 where I live. And so it has all the old wiring and all the old phone jacks and everything around the house. But we don't have a landline. I know people who have landlines at their house, but they use their cable internet. So they lost it. For me, look, fiber is truly important too, especially for like your hospitals and your police stations and your fire stations and your major communication nodes. But it seems to me that we should have some other way to back that up in case 911 goes down. I know that we have all this money being dumped into fiber all across Mississippi, But there are other satellite options available that would appear to be much more economical and much more cost effective. And as we continue to have errors like this, I mean, even if this wasn't malicious in any way, shape, matter, form, nature, or relationship, what does that say about if they did want to do something, if someone did want to do that, take down 911, and they now know that they can cut one fiber and they can basically shut down 911. For me, that's not a good option, and something should be done there. I'm not trying to raise the alarm or try to incite fear or anything like that, but I would highly encourage everybody to be able to take care of themselves. You know, the FEMA handbook says that in the event of a natural disaster, you should be able to survive for 72 hours without power, electricity, water, all the essentials. But in that same handbook, it says if there is an emergency, call 911. Well, where I live, if there's a national emergency, trees are down and everything, there ain't nobody getting out by me for any time soon. I better make sure my tractor has a full tank of gas that I can go ahead and clear out and do the things I need to do to be able to move. I also need to make sure that I can defend my family. And I'm not saying that everybody should go out right now and get locked and loaded, but what I am saying is everybody should go out right now and make sure that if they don't have a firearm and they don't know how to use it, that they should go get some training so that they can. We hear the commercial on WYAB all the time. A firearm was used in over 2 million incidences last year. That didn't include pulling the trigger. Flashing a weapon sometimes makes the criminal go away. And like I say all the time, criminals are cowards. They're going to go after soft targets. And if you can harden yourself up a little bit, then that's definitely something you can do. And men, it's Friday, so I'm going to tell you to love on your wife here. But I'll tell you what, we had one of the best Valentine's days this last year. We went to Two Gun Tactical, got us some targets. We had a bunch of ammo to blow through. And I'm here to report that the Sweet Bee is a better shot than me. And she's proficient. She's not going to turn into John Wick or John Rambo, guns and Navarone, and go storm the beaches. But I am quite certain that my wife can defend herself. I am quite certain that my daughter, with her shotgun, can defend herself. And I know my daughter's friend, Mr. Splinter, he's a good shot too. So is his dad and his mama. So in the terrible event that we do have a loss of 911, we'd be able to defend and protect ourselves, and we'd be able to make it. I'll tell you what, when that happened, I honestly thought that after I looked at it and it came right back, I was like, is this some type of drill? Remember that story that happened in Hawaii a few years back where they said they were under missile attack and everybody freaked out in Hawaii? It's almost, does it feel kind of weird to any of you how something like that happens? And look, again, I'm not one of these tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist dudes. And some people are upset with me because I don't go down every rabbit hole. But this is something that is genuinely having an impact on everybody. It doesn't matter left, right, center, Democrat, Republican. Whether we want to admit it or not, 911 is part of literally our culture. We've got songs about it. We're taught about it in school from an early age. And I'm glad that AT&T got it fixed, but why was it a AT&T fiber line? Aren't there other fiber lines out there? Is there only one fiber line that is used for the entire state? Shouldn't there be, like, some redundancy? I don't think that it's asking too much. I don't think with all the money that we pay into our government, whether that be the local fire department, the local police department, the local emergency management, the state, the federal, there should be something in place for that. But we'll see. Hopefully, we never have to actually find that out. Mass casualty event is no fun. I really don't wanna get into one bigger story. We're actually gonna take an early break because when we get back, we're gonna talk about the economy, and we're gonna talk about Instagram. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. And we are back here at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. The phone number, if you want to get involved today, is 601-879-0002. Text line is open at 601-879-5060. We will get into the Instagram stuff and we will get into the economy stuff, but I completely overlooked this. And I was even debating starting off the show with this. In the past, we played one of the citizens from Dearborn being told he was Islamophobe by the mayor, basically saying he's not welcome in the city anymore, and that he was going to throw a parade when that citizen left. Well, it gets better, but first we're going to listen to this resident of Dearborn, Michigan. And again, why do I say this to you? Because it could happen here.
But the mosques in East Dearborn are now at times waking us up at 5:30 in the morning with the call to prayer.
This is Dearborn resident Andrea Unger at last night's city council meeting stating that mosques using outdoor loudspeakers for their call to prayer should not be allowed. And says she believes it's not supposed to be allowed per city ordinance.
The noise complaints have been made out and the police have made numerous visits. What is the next step?
There was some question whether or not any outdoor loudspeakers are allowed, something that was not clarified, only that more evidence is being gathered. But CBS Detroit did examine Dearborn's noise ordinance and found that loudspeakers between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. are in violation of the ordinance.
And there you go. Dearborn is just really the first example of this. And I have to be truthful. When I was in Afghanistan, I'd hear the call to prayer every morning. It didn't bother me. It didn't hypnotize me. And some people actually thought it was kind of cool. But it didn't bother me. But 5:30 in the morning, loudspeaker, some guy starting prayer in the morning. That's not the United States of America. That's not our culture. That's not what this country was founded upon. The sojourner who is among you shall rise higher and higher above you, and you shall come down lower and lower. He shall lend to you, and you shall not lend to him. He shall be the head, and you shall be the tail. I won't tell you where I read that from, but you can probably figure that out. This illegal immigration problem we've got, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until America either A, completely goes belly up, or we decide that this isn't what we want for our country. Do you want that in Jackson? Brandon? Oh, that can't happen here. Maybe not right now. I'm sure that when this first started having this demographic shift in Dearborn, they never would have thought that they were going to have the call to prayer at 5:30 in the morning. It is completely at a point to where people are going to start losing their patience, losing their cool, and I just see bad stuff happening. I'm not saying I want that to happen. I do believe in peace and being peaceful and going down that route, but just with what's happening in Dearborn, all right. This is what I really wanted to talk about, but I had to talk about Dearborn. As a father of a daughter, I am very keenly aware of how social media manipulates its algorithms and tries to get you sucked into looking at things that you don't want to necessarily see. And Zuckerberg went before Congress and said, oh, we've got algorithms in place. We got tools in place for parents to make sure that their kids won't get sucked into this bad stuff. Instagram's deliberate design choices make it unsafe for teens despite Meta's promises, report says. A new report published Thursday by former Meta employee Arturo Bajar and nonprofit groups revealed that Instagram's design makes it unsafe for teens worldwide. I see it. Even with the parental controls that I have on my 16-year-old daughter's Instagram, it can go south pretty quick. The report attributes harm to Instagram's design flaws, noting most of the safety features are unavailable or ineffective despite Meta's claims about parental controls. I'd also say that it's difficult to click that in to get those controls pulled up. And here's the problem. It finds teens exposed to violent self-harm and sexual contact with algorithms encouraging risky behaviors and adult strangers reaching minors through app features. You know, your kid can sit there and be looking for a prom dress or a homecoming dress. And the next thing you know, it's a dress, but it's a little bit more risky, we'll say. My wife and daughter laugh because, I want her having a full gown going to home, and that's not what it is. And I get that. I think most of us men who are fathers understand and appreciate that too. We don't want our daughters walking around looking like a Jezebel. At least I don't. I don't know if any of you feel the same way, but I don't want that. My daughter's not a piece of meat. But not only does it hypersexualize kids, which we're going to talk about, but it also shows violence. Things like car accidents, fights, assassinations. Not right away. Not right away. It just shifts the algorithm, getting you to walk down that path. Of course, Meta calls the report misleading. They think it's dangerous and speculative, asserting that their teen accounts provide automatic safety protections that affect teens saw less sensitive content. Here's the thing. You can tell the algorithm show less sensitive content, but the algorithm is always watching you. And if you're not watching what your kids are consuming, you're in trouble. Because we were all teens once, and we know how curious we were. Don't think that this generation's any different than you were or I was. Associated propaganda. Instagram's deliberate design choices make it unsafe for teens despite Meta's promises, report says. And this report came out yesterday afternoon. The sources that they're citing here are Cybersecurity for Democracy at New York University and Northeastern University, as well as the Molly Rose Foundation, Fair Play, and Parent SOS. So you got people from the left to the right all agreeing that there's a problem here. And we still have some parents who are upset that they're trying to take away phones from students during the day. And by the way, we did do a test in Rankin County, and out of the 7 people that texted their kids during the middle of the day, 3 of them answered within 5 minutes. So if anybody's saying that they're taking away the cell phones in Rankin County, that's not true. It just depends on the teacher. This distinction is critical because social media platforms and their defenders often conflate efforts to improve the platform design with censorship, the report says. However, asserting safety tools and calling out Meta when these tools do not work as promised has nothing to do with free speech. I agree. When you're over 18, you're responsible, you're living on your own, you're not living in mom's basement, you've got a job, 9 to 5, you want to go out and go look at some craziness? I don't recommend it. It'll wire your brain a little crazy, but whatever. But that stuff doesn't need to be shown to a 10-year-old on Instagram or Facebook, because remember, Meta is Facebook and Instagram. And of course, Meta is all upset because now their stock price is going to fall through the floor. Well, it won't, but it'll take a hit. And I'm just curious because I know people at my church feel the same way, but I don't see a lot of other parents outside of my circles really worried about social media impacting their kids. But to me, as I've watched my daughter grow up and seen some of their friends, like they change within 3 weeks of getting a social media platform. TikTok, Instagram, Snap. Snap is crazy. And if you know, you know. So do we actually push for censorship on those platforms with content like that? I know on X, they they do a okay job at blocking that stuff. And I'm just being truth be told. I told you I couldn't be a first responder or anything like that. I don't wanna see fights or gunshots or gunfights or anything like that. Don't need to see it, don't wanna see it. Please don't show it to me. And my feed is really good on X. I don't get to see any of that. I don't see all of the other craziness either. But the fact that we continue to have social media program or platforms, and quite frankly, our schools too, pushing stuff on our kids that should never be seen in the first place, it's a true problem with our democracy. And what really got me about this story was I look at the people, whether you want to be on the left or the right, whether you go for very high factuality or even low factuality, they're all singing the same song. So when that happens, and I mean, I don't say that because I'm just whining and complaining. I'm saying that because you as parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, we need to know about this. And it's not like we sit down every week and talk about it, but we've have had to talk to say, you know, you just got to block some of this stuff. And I'm sure this won't be the last time that some social media platform gets picked on for pushing inappropriate content to our kids. But we should know about that. You as a parent should know about that. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back.
Down the first time, and Nancy said
Well, this is all caused by the Democrats. They asked us to do.
We could be headed for a
Senator Schumer, you told me last year before the election that you had lost confidence in Jim Comey because of how he handled the email scandal. Do you think that the president's explanation that this is the reason why he's firing him now has credibility with you? Do you believe that?
Okay.
Or do you think he's firing him for another reason?
I never called on the president to fire Director Comey. I had a lot of questions about how he handled himself.
Oh, yeah. You're back. Listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. 3 texts came in over the break talking about Chuck Schumer wanting to shut down the government because we're not funding some stuff. We're going to get to that. But first, got to talk to you about my man Bruce over at iGear Optical in Pearl, Mississippi, 2630 Highway 80. Open Monday, 10 to 6, Monday to Friday, 10 to 6, and Saturday from 10 to 2. If you're looking for glasses, your frame's broke, perhaps you got a style that you liked a little while ago and realized it's not what you want, go see my man Bruce over at iGear Optical, iGearOptical.com. Brother Bruce, appreciate you sponsoring the show. It means a lot, and we're grateful for you. Look, people are, I don't know, something must have just happened in the search algorithm or whatever, but people are talking about Chuck Schumer wanting to shut down the government because he wants to reopen the border, fund some leftist media groups through USAID, and also continue to give healthcare to illegal aliens. And the thing about this is that we all know this is true, but this is why so many of us on the right who are conservative, not necessarily Republican, although I am, that's why we want a budget. These CRs continue to hold the American public hostage. And we never used to have a government buy CRs. And if we can't pass a budget because it's just too big and we're going to this continuing resolution route, well, maybe we need to shrink the government a little bit. This is Byron Donalds on Fox News, just talking about what Chuck Schumer's trying to do as far as shut down the government.
We could be headed for a government shutdown. I see that as an opportunity for President Trump to take command of spending. What do you say to that?
I completely agree. Let's understand the reason why there's a pending government shutdown is because Chuck Schumer wants more money going to aliens. He wants a wide open border. He wants to give almost $500 million to nonprofit TV networks, something that we don't need if you need right now in today's America. There's entertainment and information all over the place. And that's what they want. They want more spending. They want more reckless policy. That's what the American people rejected last November. And so if there is a government shutdown, it's because Chuck Schumer wants a shutdown for more radical spending that the American people simply do not want.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But we need Republicans to act like Republicans. And you know, Mississippi, we are a conservative state. We should have no problem with our senators leading the charge on that. And also our congressmen. We don't need backbenchers in Mississippi. they're in such safe districts that they should be able to go out there and really carry the banner, raise the flag, charge. And that just leads into what the Democrats have been saying, not only with the budget, but with the economy. Remember this?
This country, Donald Trump promised to lower costs on day one. Costs haven't gone down, they're going up. He's crashing the economy in real time. His tariffs are going to impose thousands of dollars in additional cost on everyday Americans per year. And he may even be driving us toward a recession. That's the reason why Donald Trump has become so unpopular. It's because he's failed the country on the economy. And so
there's just one problem. The economy continues to hum. This is coming from Magnolia Tribune, Paul Weissman and the AP. U.S. economy expanded at a surprising 3.8% pace in significant upgrade of second quarter growth. I'm not saying that the news is always going to be good and it's always, the grass is always greener on the right. But President Trump has been right with this economic data, with this vision for how he wants to take the country. And I'm just going to say it's the deep state dragging its feet, fighting at every turn, not to give the president what he needs to make this economy succeed. Wednesday, we said 2 million illegals are already out of the country, 1.6 million self-deported, 400,000 arrested. We have had excellent economic growth. As we get more economic growth with less of an impact of illegal aliens in our country, that's going to be substantial. They think as many as 15 million illegal aliens came over the border from 2020 to 2024. U.S. gross domestic product, the nation's output of goods and services, rebounded in the spring from 0.6 first quarter drop because by a fallout from President Donald Trump's trade wars. The Commerce Department said Thursday the department had previously estimated the second quarter growth of 3.3%, and forecasters had expected to repeat that figure, except it was 3.8, or an extra 0.5% of growth. What's a 0.5% of 7 trillion? I don't know. I'm not going to do math in public, but that's a lot of flipping money. The U.S. consumer remained a lot stronger than many thought, even in the midst of stock market sell-off and a lot of trade uncertainty. Heather Long, chief economist of Navy Federal Credit Union, posted on social media. Remember when we were reading stories how they always say this expert here or this expert there? Experts are shocked. Experts are confused by the strong economic growth. They don't understand. I'm telling you, and everybody's like, Andrew, you're just so fomenting so much hate against the government and the deep state. Well, it's not that I'm fomenting hate. I do not think that. I just think that I've seen enough to be able to put it out there for everybody to listen to understand that we don't need this kind of crazy economic policy coming from these longtime insiders. Go ahead. You're on the air.
What's up, my man, Andrew?
I'm doing good.
I want to go back to something you've swerved past, as Rush Limbaugh used to say.
Yep.
And that's Rankin County and the cell phones.
Oh, yeah. Okay?
The policy says those phones are to be turned off and put in your backpack, but they're not.
Nope.
They're on these students in their pockets walking up down the hall. Now, let's talk about safety. If an individual, math teacher, English teacher, science teacher, makes a student angry and he texts Uncle Joe and says, I'm going to go to the bathroom in 10 minutes. I'm going to text you. Be ready. And he meets Uncle Joe at the back entrance, lets him in, and Uncle Joe comes in and does his thing, whatever that might be. But we're allowing these kids to have these phones in their pocket. You know why?
Tell me.
Tiffany has to text her mama 3 times a day to make sure her day's going well. And the county figures, I'd rather take my chances with somebody gaining access to the building than pissing Tiffany's mama off.
Well, I've never thought about it like that, but I mean, that's a whole nother scenario that you bring up. And my thing is look, if we're going to ban cell phones, like in my daughter's school, there's no cell phones. If I can text her 6 times to Sunday, and guess what? I'm not going to hear anything. But that doesn't mean that we have that cell phone policy in place and then we don't follow it. That's one of the big problems people have with public schools is that there's a lot of policies that they have that they don't follow, or there's policies that they don't have and they should follow.
Well, it's just like laws that are written that are not enforced.
Yep.
Laws that are written that are not enforced. And we're not enforcing them because we're going to make the majority of mamas mad because they can't ask Tiffany, if her makeup is still looking good by the end of 3rd block.
Well,
and that's the size of it. And I tell you what, some of these academies, and Arkansas just passed a law that says no phones on campus, period.
Wow.
Yeah. And we got to get to that, guys, because it's only going to take one occurrence of somebody gains access to that building and somebody's killed or somebody's injured, and they're going to sue that administrator. They're going to sue the district. They're going to sue everybody they can name they can write on a piece of paper. But let's don't make Tiffany's mama mad. Let's just roll the dice.
Well, the one thing that I have not done that I should have done was FOIA the cell phone policy for Rankin County. But when I get home today, I'll do that just to have it in writing. And then when we get it back in 14 days, I'll let you know what we got.
Brother, I already texted it to you.
I know, but if I forward it to you, if I FOIA it and I get it, we can go and do it again. I know you've done a lot of great work over there, but it's one of those things, and I don't mean to gloss over it. There's just a lot of different stories going around.
I got you. Yeah, you got a big plate.
I do, but the thing is that's what makes this show so awesome. Is that we've got people like you out there who are focusing on that piece. We've got people. I'll tell you what. I know more about internal Israeli politics now than I ever thought I would ever know. And, we've got people who are out there, subject matter experts in a bunch of different areas, and we'll lean on that.
Well, and aside, we're talking about Schumer wanting these monies for, what have you. What happened to balancing the budget? Why do we got to do another CR?
Hey, you want to know what? You're preaching to the choir. I was in it for the big, beautiful bill because we had to get that done. But you want to know what? It's time to put the budget together.
That's right.
And
have a good one, brother.
Yep, you have a good one too. Thanks for the call. Always appreciate that. And yep, I'm human. I should have FOIA'd that a while ago. I didn't, but if you're on the cam, you can see me writing it down now. So I got that taken care of. Look, there's getting back to the spending thing. I do want to get back to the cell phone thing next week, and I will. But with this CR business, with the government, with the Democrats trying to shut it down to try to get more crazy spending put through, we as conservatives have to draw the line and never forget. I didn't even get to this story today, and I wanted to. But in 2020 and in 2024, Arizona stole 2 Senate seats. They stole them. And we would have one or two more Republican votes if that happened. I've got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show. Hey, hey, sir.
What's up, Andrew?
Hey, we're on a commercial break, my man.
Yeah, I know. I'm sitting. Hey, I'm not one of these that turns the radio up real loud and then when you come on and all. But no, when I hear the little shush thing, I turn it where I can hear you. But,
thank you.
No, I was going to kind of tie your economic thing into parents and all that go, no, it's just screen time and everything. Is that going through college? Of course, back then it was a sin to graduate with college debt unless you were a doctor or an attorney. So I actually started a photography business. and I did fraternity and sorority parties. And at one point in time, I was doing almost 100 fraternities and sororities.
Wow.
And so you'd go to Mississippi State, and they would be dancing different to a song. Ole Miss different to a song. LSU different to a song. Alabama different to a song. But then all of a sudden, August of 1981, something happened. Then all of a sudden, every time you went to a dance, when a song came on, everybody was dancing the same dance all the way down to the hand movements. What happened August of 1981?
I was in third grade. I don't know.
MTV.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Video killed the radio star, man.
Say that, right. So when people say, no, it's just a one-off, and I'm like, no. And
can you call in next?
That somebody.
Can you call in? Can you call in next week with that? Because I'd like to do a whole segment on that.
Yeah,
dude. Let's do it then, man. I don't mean to cut you off, but
I'll be in New Orleans, but I'll still give you a call.
Oh, that'd be well. Listen to on the stream, dude, if you get the chance.
Well, no. Hey, man, when I'm out of town, I had to go live in Dallas, Fort Worth, 3 months, and that's how I did y'all is on the internet. And just had it done in through the car.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
So did your wife enjoy some flowers?
Oh, brother, she loved it. Dude, let me I've got your card in my phone. Let me get back, but I'll call you here in about 10 minutes.
You're good.
All right?
Okay, no worries.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
bye.
bye.
And we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I had a great call over the week or over the break talking about what screen time does to kids and what TV time does. And he had a great analogy. I'm just going to keep it till next week because I don't have enough time to get into that. But then, and then over the break, I got this text, and I'm just going to read it. Again, I say that we, the voters, especially the conservative voters, are to blame. We know that Mr. Trump needs our help, and we stay at home and allow either worthless Republicans or Democrat enemies to be voted back into office. We are in charge. Let's use our power. Yep, I agree with you. But it all starts locally, whether that be a mayor or alderman, school board member. I'm telling you, it's all local. And you just build up your little network and you control what you can control and you're going to be all right. You have to do it that way. If you try to build it any other way, it's just, in my experience with politics, if you don't build local networks, it just ends up failing. And good people, I mean, we've had some great people run, but unfortunately they just didn't have the backbone, not like the backbone to vote, but the backbone of support for the election. They counted on Facebook and social media, and they thought that that was going to carry the day, and it just ended up not doing it. And that's all right. But we learn from that and we carry on. Last thing I want to share, and it's really disgusting, but running around on different campuses now, I've seen this at 2 different campuses. It's the same flyer. It says, "Hey, fascist, catch," which was the what was inscribed on the casing of the bullet that shot Charlie, murdered Charlie. And now they're using it to recruit people. That is just beyond the pale to me. I can't understand how somebody would want to do that. But that's them. This is us. And you want to know what? It's Friday. And guys, let me tell you, you got to have something to do this weekend with your wife. This weekend, the wife and I, we're killing turkeys. We're going to slaughter about 50 of them. We're going to load our freezers up. We're going to give some away. We're going to sell some. And that might not be a good time for you and your wife, but what the Sweet Bee and I like doing might not be what you like doing, but do something with your spouse, man. She's amazing. She lifts you up. And women out there, you've got a good man. Let them know. And when you two work together, 3 chords are much more difficult to get rid of than 2. And if you know, you know. Continue to build each other up and lift one another up just as you already are doing. Continue to encourage one another. And you know what? We will be back in about 46 hours. Take care, everybody. Be blessed.